Welcome to Fats on Film. I am your host, Hannah Ogilvie, and this is a podcast where we discuss all things fat representation in film, TV, and wider media. And this week, my guest is co-host of the I Spit on Your Grades podcast. It's Faye. Hi, Faye.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us. How are you doing today?
Not bad, not bad. I'm fresh out the shower, so it's all good.
Oh my God, I also showered today, washed my hair. Like,
There you go.
very
Just for
excited.
this pod, just for you.
Yeah, thank you so much. It looks gorgeous. We like to spruce up on this pod.
Mm.
How's it going? We both live in Sheffield, so like,
Mhm.
how's Sheffield treating you?
It's grand. The weather's getting warmer.
Oh,
It's
thank
coming
God.
up to festival season, so all
Yes.
good.
Have you got
Yeah.
anything lined up?
Oh, so many. Slam Dunk, Download, and then you get into Fright Fest, and then it's Sell, and then it's Soho, and
Wow.
a very
You,
expensive year, but very packed.
oh, good. You just won't be home, which I
No.
mean, it's fine. The things we do, and like I also like with those festivals, it's the community, isn't it?
Hmm.
Like, you're going to socialize, you're going to be with friends and people like you only ever see on those festivals, right? But
Exactly,
it's
yeah.
all part of it. Oh, that sounds great. Well, today we've come together because we're going to talk about a biggie when we talk about fat representation in film.
Mhm.
We're talking about Bridget Jones's Diary. Now, I want to get your thoughts when we like the other side of the synopsis, but let's talk about what it is. So, it was a 2001 rom-com directed by Sharon Maguire, who was a close friend of the author Helen Fielding, who wrote the 1996 book which the film is based, and that was inspired by Pride and Prejudice. Have you read the book?
Yes.
Oh, perfect. Great, because I haven't, and I'd love to get that insight. So, the book was named by a survey ran by The Guardian as one of the 10 novels that best defined the 20th century. The screenplay was written by Fielding, Richard Curtis, and Andrew Davies, and it stars Renee Zellweger, Colin Firth, Hugh Grant, Jim Broadbent, and Gemma Jones. It made over $280 million at the box office and earned Renee Zellweger an Oscar nomination for her role as the titular Bridget. So, Faye, can you let me and the audience know what is Bridget Jones's Diary all about?
Bridget Jones's Diary is Bridget, a 30 something, living in a flat next to a railway in a dead end job. She's searching for Mr. Perfect, as we all were back in 2001. It's really her journey getting there and then partly discovering herself and realizing she doesn't need a man, but ends up with a man anyway. So I don't know what the message is there. But yeah, that's it. It's her looking for love, basically. And everything that comes along the way.
Yeah, perfect synopsis. And I think the thing we just mentioned before the pod, like I've seen this film at least 50 times. You think you've seen it probably at least 50 times.
Yeah.
But watching it with this Fats on Film lens on, I was really struck with how, and I do not mean to diminish Renee Zellweger in any way, but she looks so normal to me.
Hmm.
And I was just like, I actually really appreciated it this time round. And we'll get into her body in a bit because that's obviously a major part of why we're talking about this film. But I really appreciated just how every girl she was. And you see other films try to do the every girl thing, but they'll cast like Margot Robbie, and I'm like, And in whose world is she the every girl? But Renee
Yeah.
Zellweger truly looks normal and
Yes.
non-Hollywood. And like even like her hair is not well kept. It's frizzy in scenes. And it just made me relate to Bridget because she, like you say, she's 32 years old as the film opens up. I'm 31 now. So I definitely feel like, oh, am I? I'm like Bridget, like I'm really at where she is in her life?
Well, when it first came out, I was 20 in
Hmm.
2001, and she does have a normal look about her, but I admired that so much
Yeah.
because she still looked beautiful. Like
Yes.
the hate she gets in this film for how she looks is ridiculous. She is not deserving of this at all. They've done it so dirty. And I always looked up to her. I always loved how she looked personally, and I
Hmm.
never for once thought she was fat. But
Mm-mm.
this was 2001. This is what 2001 liked to do to
Yeah.
women.
Yeah.
I could go into hours talking about what Heat magazine did to me alone, but I won't.
Mm,
But yeah, I always looked up to her. I thought she was funny. She
mhm,
she lived in London. She knew what she was doing. I
mhm.
I I admired her. I still do in a way.
Yeah, she is like totally aspirational. She is a single woman who lives on her own, which in London is unheard of, right? The idea she could afford to live on her own. She's a career, and that comes up a lot in the film. This idea that she's a career girl. She's chosen a career over potentially finding a relationship, settling down. And it's used against her. And
Mm.
again, as someone who I'm child free by choice, I related to that narrative, this idea that
Yeah.
she had to fit this heteronormative storyline of she must settle down and have kids. I mean, yes, like you mentioned in your synopsis, she wants Mr. Perfect. She finds that she doesn't need Mr. Perfect, but then finds a Mr. Perfect anyway.
Mm.
So yeah, the messaging is a little bit weird and we can get into that. But yeah, I really admire like her choices as
Yeah.
a young 30 something who just looks like your neighbor.
But like you say, the bizarre thing is that looking back on it now is exactly how much it is used against her. It's odd
Yeah, yeah, it
that
is.
she's doing something wrong in her life by having all these things. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, aside from her friends and possibly her dad, I
Mm,
find that everyone in the film looks down on her at some
definitely.
point, and I'm like, why?
Definitely. Well, let's
Rude.
just yeah, completely rude. Our poor Bridget. So let's get into it. So the reason why we're talking about it is I remember, so when this film came out, I would have been 9 years old. But I fully remember the whole narrative of how much Renee Zellweger had to gain to become this normal, fat, for lack of a better term, London working girl.
Mm.
Um, and then she had to lose it all again because she had Chicago the next year, and she's so slender in Chicago because she's that maybe that 1920s depression era
Yeah.
chic. And I just remember that being a real talking point. It was a point of publicity for this film.
Absolutely. I mean, anything back there where I say back there like it's the olden days.
Yes, it
Back
is.
in the early 2000s, anything where an actor or an actress did have to gain weight,
Mhm,
it was quite controversial and it was all
mhm,
that was reported upon because it I don't know why it was so bad to be fat back then, but it
mm,
was. It was like the worst thing you could be. Like, say, magazines would have it constantly every week telling you if you had a muffin top that you were disgusting. If you, I don't know if you'll remember this from how young you were, because
mm,
you're 10 years younger than me.
mhm,
You probably remember it,
mm.
but it was pure gaslighting on the
Oh,
media's part. It was horrible. Um,
definitely. And I remember like that you saying that I remember so seared in my brain. Kelly Osbourne was walking a red carpet and her ankles were out. Oh my God, God forbid. And that's when the first time I heard the word cankles.
yeah.
And that is like a core memory for me.
It's horrible. It's horrible to get young women thinking that way.
Yeah.
And I mean, to be Renée Zellweger, I don't know how she felt personally about her body, but I know
Mm-hmm.
that when she was asked to come back to do Bridget Jones's Baby, she
Mm-hmm.
refused to put on the weight again
Yes.
and said
Yeah.
she didn't want to do it unless she could be her size. But
Mm-hmm.
she didn't look like Bridget then. It
Yeah.
wasn't the Bridget we knew. I don't want to body shame her. Of course, I'm not doing that. It didn't feel right for me, that film. But
Yes. And I think this, I mean, I have never seen a Hollywood actress in real life, but from what I've read, from what I've seen, from what I've been told, my understanding is they are a lot more slender than you think they are. And it's that whole adage of the camera adds 10 pounds. So, they already look small on your screen. They are smaller than that in real life. And I think with Bridget, probably part of the reason why Renee Zellweger had to gain, so she gained 25 pounds or 11 kilos for the part. It's because they needed to just look like an every girl, right?
yeah,
Every girls are not Hollywood thin because they don't have the Hollywood personal chefs, or they could spend all day exercising, whatever it might be, have access to drugs that just which are not
yeah,
good for you. So she almost had to gain the weight to portray the role of Bridget, but at the same time, that's called her being fat. That's obviously she believes putting strain on her body to the point where, like, she was getting older by the time of Bridget Jones's baby. So she was
Mm.
probably thinking, like, my metabolism isn't as quick. I wouldn't be able to lose the weight. Or,
Yeah.
or maybe have a hard time losing the weight after the role. I mean, for it's her body, she should do whatever she wants. But I guess bring it back to 2001, and then is it 2004 for Bridget Jones, The Edge of Reason?
Yes.
She had gained and like lost and then gained the weight again for both films, and it's applauded. And that goes back to your point, which is like whenever any actor does this, and my head went straight to Christian Bale.
Mm.
Any actor does, it's applauded as like a commitment to the craft,
Yeah.
and I'm just like, okay, like, and
It's a weird one. It's giving the message that it is a bad thing to be fat, and it's not. Obviously, it's not. And
yeah,
especially back then, it was more influential in what it was
mm.
trying to say. I just found out as well a couple of days ago that Helen Fielding was apparently, I don't know if she still is, married to Richard Curtis.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like they were actually together. And
Oh,
when you watch Bridget Jones and keep in mind Love Actually and
well, I
his sort of
mean,
films, it makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
yes, I mean, watching this, you definitely feel the Richard Curtis lens has been applied to
Privilege.
this film. And I'm like, yes, for listeners, Love Actually will be a Christmas special
Mm,
for the season. But yeah, I just think when I looked at the other actresses considered for the role of Bridget, you might hear a common thread with all these choices. So we had Kate
mm.
Blanchett, Helena Bonham Carter, Emily Watson, Rachel Weisz, who was considered too beautiful, and Cameron Diaz. Toni Collette declined the role because she
Oh,
was on Broadway, and Kate Winslet was considered too young, as she would have been 24 at the time. And I was struck by how they are all very slender women.
mm.
I mean, again, we could talk about the absolute heinous press of how they treated Kate Winslet back in the
Yeah.
90s and early noughties, but like,
Mhm.
not a big woman has never been a big woman.
No.
And I'm not saying like, I guess from the book's perspective, because when we first meet Bridget, she meets Mr. Darcy, Mark, Colin Firth's
Mm.
character, and he's heinously rude to her. What does he say? He goes, a verbally incontinent spinster who smokes like a chimney, drinks like a fish, and dresses like her mother.
Mhm.
And she overhears it, and this is her like, I need to change myself moment, which I already hate because she's changing herself for a man's perspective.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she starts a diary because she wants to tell Bridget Jones the whole truth. And her first resolution of this new year is to lose 20 pounds. And she steps on the scale and it's really hard to tell, but she's between 9.5 and 10 stone. Oh my God.
God.
Shock.
Jesus. No, you do not need to lose weight, for God's sake.
I know. So
Oh.
so that means I did a little bit of math. So between 9.5 10 stone, I think 10 stones around 63.5 kilos, right?
Mm.
And so she wants to lose 20 pounds. That's 1.5 stone, which would mean that she would go down to 8.5 stone if she's at that maximum of 10.
Mm.
Renee Zellweger is 5'4" or 1.63 meters, which means, and I know the BMI is trash. I know it
I love
is.
that you've done the science on this.
Oh my God, no, I had to.
The
Because
science.
I was like, what does this mean? So yeah, that means that her current BMI at the 63 kilos, the 10 stone, and her height, her BMI is 24, which is completely within a healthy range. If
Mhm.
she lost the 20 pounds to make her 8.5 stone, she would still be in that healthy range. And I just think, like, what does that tell you as a person when you hear that 9.5, 10 stone is too much? Because she makes that noise, she goes, ooh, doesn't she, when she steps on the
Yeah.
scale? And she instantly goes, I need to lose 20 pounds.
And it barely moves, but yeah, that's fine. Oh, it's so infuriating. This sadly was the message. I'm so glad that we live in the time we do now where it
Mhm.
is acceptable to be I mean, it's not fully acceptable. I still see some horrible comments on TikTok and
Mm,
Facebook and such, but compared to how it was back then, it's miles better.
Hmm.
because back then it was awful. I said I'm saying back then a lot because I just remember living through this and I remember the influence it had. And I constantly felt myself. Like, I mean, I wasn't as big as I am now back then, but I was still feeling that it wasn't good enough, whatever size you were going to be. It always had to be really skinny so you could show off your midriff. And, you know, if you showed off your midriff with a bit of weight, it was disgusting. It was reported upon. And as much as I love Bridget Jones, it pushes that agenda that
Hmm.
you need to be thinner when clearly she doesn't.
Yeah. I think that's it. Going back to like the fashion magazines of the time, like definitely, there were articles that would be like whales on the beach, and it would be women who had been packed, celebrity women who had been packed in bikinis and swim costumes. And you know what? Like they might literally be twisting. And regardless of what weight you are, if you twist, you're gonna get a roll somewhere because that's how the body
Yes.
works. Your skin can't be that tight, or you wouldn't be able to twist, right? And it would be like, oh my God, I'm trying to think of like celebs from the time where they would do that too. But
Kate
yeah,
Winslet was one
there
of
we go.
them. And you
Yeah,
mentioned Kelly Osbourne, she was another.
yeah.
Anyone who ended up on Big Brother, I think Kinga and Jade at some point as well, they were.
That's a really good reference, Jay Goody, 100%. And yeah, King, absolutely. Like those kind of I'm sorry if I disrespect any of my former Big Brother people, but like we're talking like D list, right?
Yeah.
And but yeah, I remember like Heat or Closer, like reporting on these people. Even if they've I remember the whole women had to snap back into their bodies after having babies, and you're
Mhm.
just like it was just constant critiquing, and you're consuming it, and you're obviously like internalizing that, going, well, I can't look that way, and especially when you're younger, you can't recognize the nuances. Like I
No.
definitely didn't understand that these people could have, afford to work out all day, every day, personal trainers, personal chefs, personal like dietitians, like everything to help them or assist them in looking
Mm.
the beauty standard. I thought, well, I just have to do it, even though I'm going to
Yeah.
school.
Even if you weren't considered big back then, so like Rachel Stevens, for example,
Yeah.
she brought out I think it was LAX, the
Oh,
single, and
right.
on the cover it's her in like a bent shape with I think some sort of bow on or something,
Yes.
and they have airbrushed her stomach out within an inch of there's nothing there.
I'm
She
Googling it
does
right
not
now.
look that in real life. It's awful.
Well, then you bring up like yeah, like Britney Spears. We're talking like the
Mm.
queen of the midriff, the queen of the low-rise gene. You know,
Oh, trauma, emotional damage with
uh,
low-rise jeans.
yeah, low-rise jeans. I mean, belly button rings were so popular in the early noughties, and I remember that being a whole thing that we can't have a belly ring unless you have like a washboard stomach,
Yeah.
and it's just. I mean, it's just impossible. It's
You
impossible.
you
So
look back now, it's ugly as well. It was a really ugly fashion era. I won't have anything good said about fashion from 2000s. No.
yeah, so we're being force fed this. And I remember even like, you know, Lindsay Lohan, I'm thinking Hilary Duff, Jessica Simpson, like these were all face the same criticism. And the thing is though, not only are you internalizing, so you're criticizing yourself and you're judging yourself, everyone around you is also consuming the exact same narrative. So then they're judging you. And I remember this is like a real deep cut from my personal history, but I could have only have been maybe 9 or 10 years old, super, super young. I'm still in primary school. And we've gone to like the local rec center for like PE swim class. And this girl comes up to me and she grabs my hips and she goes, look at these love handles.
Oh my God.
And I was like dead, like inside. Even it's funny because I can't think where I would have even got that terminology from. But the fact that 9-year-olds knew that phrase and knew it was
Jeez.
something to judge, almost disgust. And I was just, oh my God, heartbroken. And I just wanted like the world to swallow me up.
Oh man, I'm so sorry. That's
It
awful.
no, it is awful. I'm like, luckily, like I guess how most, well, I like to say like hopefully a lot of fat people have gone through a lot of reconciliation. and, healing the inner child, especially if you were fat when you were a kid and you were fat as an
Mm.
adult. And to your point, it is easier now, but we've still got room to breathe, and we've still got room
Yeah,
to
yeah.
improve upon. But I guess it's to reiterate your point, back then in the early noughties, it was trash, like
Mm.
really hard going.
And obviously Bridget Jones being one of like the biggest selling, well, biggest earning films of the year, that was just
Yeah,
into everything we were experiencing at the time.
exactly. So, Faye, who is Bridget as a person? You mentioned she's a go-getter, she wants to find Mr. Perfect, but like, what's her personality like?
Ah, it's hard because she can come across as a bit one-dimensional at times
Mhm.
in the but that's only because she get in the story of where she wants to be in terms of finding a man and losing weight and such. But she's hurt. She's constantly hurt, I think, and she's just trying to get to a place in her life where she can be happy, regardless of how she looks, regardless of whether it's with a man or not. It does end up being with a man, obviously,
Mhm.
because who wouldn't want to be with Colin Firth? Oh my
I
goodness.
really, really want to get into the men of this film.
Why she even went for Weaver in
Oh
the
my
first
God.
place, I have no idea.
No, no,
But
Faye. I will actually defend you. I will defend Daniel. Not completely, but I get it.
okay, fair enough. I only get it in Hugh Grant now, mainly when he's playing a gay man in Glass Onion. That's weird. That says a lot about me, obviously. But yeah, no, Colin Firth all the way for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, with I think just Bridget just wants to be happy,
Mm.
but
Yeah.
it's hard.
It is hard. And she has like really complicated, like, I think her relationships are quite well established. So I hear what you're saying. She's a bit one dimensional. And some of her decision making, I'm like, Bridge, no. But I really appreciate that, like, we learned so early on her relationship with her mother. And I'm sure a lot of people might have that relationship with their mum.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Not
yeah.
my mum personally, bless
No,
her. She'll slip into that sometimes, but
no, and I wouldn't say my mom's like that either, but I've met that woman,
yes.
and she's so, again, kind of her idea of what success is for her daughter to settle down. So she's playing matchmaker, right? And she's like put on this like the turkey curry dinner party.
Yeah. Turkey curry buffet.
Yes, and she's like, Bridget's walked up, and she's a little bit hungover. She's got her just a standard jumper on and jeans, and it's not good enough. It's not polished enough for mum. So she set out something lovely on the bed, and she comes down and she's wearing a carpet. And I just would love to know like what mum's thought was when she put that out, going, yes, this is the one.
It's a different time for them, isn't it? And
Yes.
yeah, success is in their society because they come from a very small, the parents live in a very small village where everybody knows each other. And
Yes.
yeah, Bridget wants out of that. Bridget doesn't want that. And I don't blame her because it looks culty, if you ask me.
Yeah, it's a little bit hot fuzzy, isn't it?
Yeah, it
Yeah,
is.
everyone knows everyone. Everyone's in each other's like business. So yeah, she walks in and she's got like Uncle Jeffrey, who isn't actually an uncle. And again, I've got like family friends like this where I call them aunt and uncle. They're nothing actually related,
Mm.
and he's a perv, and it's just kind of like, oh, he's just a pervert. And I was like, no, that we should linger on that a second and be like, that's not okay.
She comes across a lot of perverts. She comes across tits pervert as
Tits
well.
pervert, tits pervert.
Yeah,
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, she
she
does, and
attracts them.
she
Bless her.
does. She does. And then she greets her dad, who's played by Jim Broadbent, and you can see that they've got a very comfortable relationship with each
Mm.
other. They're sharing a cigarette. He totally understands the position that his wife, her mother's put her in, which is like, oh, setting you up with this new guy. And then she walks up and, well, no, sorry, her mum drags her up.
Yeah.
Is it to offer? What does she want to offer Mark Darcy as an intro? Is it like a mini gherkin or something?
Oh, I forgot. I don't recall that
No,
part.
I went super, super detailed. It's fine. She goes up like trying to, a weird chat up line, and then she leaves them to talk. And it's very clear Mark Darcy's incredibly stiff. He doesn't want anything to do with Bridget. Bridget's got a cigarette in one hand, a gin and tonic in the other. And then we get that horrible scene where he like slags her off to his mum.
Mm.
And so that's when she decides that she's going to change her life. But before she changes her life, she has a moment to herself when she is singing Celine Dion's All by Myself. How do you feel about this scene?
I relate a lot with this scene because
Mm.
my friend Jennifer, back in the day, when it first came out, and she saw it, she said that she thought it reminded her of me.
Mhm.
That scene where she's just drunk and crying to herself, and because
Yeah.
I was a bit hectic back in the
Okay.
day.
Yeah.
So yeah, I relate quite heavily to that scene with Bridget. It's a bit of, self-pity. But also you're drunk, so what the hell does it matter?
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
fun. It's fun to be drunk, but whilst also being in that woe is me sort of
Yes.
attitude.
It's very woe is me. It's very like I can see the path that's ahead of me, and unless I change my actions, like I'm destined for it. But it's just like, yeah, it's very indulgent. And
Hmm.
I think it's really fun. You know,
We should be allowed to cry every now and again if we want to cry.
oh my God, 100%. It's so cathartic, right?
Yeah.
And she's, belting it. Well, I say belting, she's like lip syncing to it.
Yeah.
And it's just really fun. And that's like she's watching Frasier in the background. And I was just
Girl
like,
of class. Frasier's brilliant.
she's got taste. Yeah, she's really in her feelings, but maybe it's one of those things where like she needed that catharsis. She needed to let go in
Hmm.
order to start the new year with her resolutions. So the next well, I guess it's the next year. The next
Yep.
morning, she starts her diary. And we have resolutions. So we mentioned resolution one, which is for her to lose 20 pounds. And resolution two is to find a nice, suitable boyfriend. And then she lists off like I don't again I didn't write it down what it is, but I just remember fuckwits as being like a real key word.
Emotional fuckwits.
Emotional
Yeah.
fuckwits and
Yeah.
like not fall for someone who embodies all of these things. Cut to Hugh
And of
Grant.
course, yeah. Hugh
Oh my
Grant.
God. It's optimum Hugh Grant hair. And I'm just like, oh my God, I swoon. I really do swoon.
It's
And
funny you should say that because I was looking at Colin Firth and thinking, if you put Hugh Grant's hair on Colin Firth, that would be a winner. That would be 100%.
everyone would die. No one would be able
Yes.
to survive that.
Eyes
Oh,
would melt.
like we would not, we'd be on the floor like puddles. Oh my God, yes. I wonder if Colin Firth has ever done that. I'm gonna have to like go through his filmography and see, maybe like when he was younger.
I'll take on that challenge. I don't mind looking at pictures of Colin Firth. That's
Oh,
all
you
right.
take away for the team. Thank you
Yeah.
so much. So not Culver, Hugh Grant, Daniel Cleaver. He is I guess it's Bridget's boss. He's something to do with they're working in a publishing house, right? And Bridget's to do with PR within it.
Mhm.
And she fancies him. Obviously, why wouldn't you? We meet her. I guess she's not really her manager, but she's a little bit senior, so she thinks that she like can boss Bridget around.
Petunia. Is it Petunia?
Perpetua.
Perpetua. Thank you.
Never met Perpetua before, and
Me
I'm
neither.
looking forward to it. And Mr. Fitzherbert or Tits Pervert. One morning, Bridget swans into the office and she's wearing a short skirt. Um, and this gets Daniel Cleaver's attention, and he messaged to say, "Is skirt off sick?" And then they have this like back and forth email flirty thing, and she like instantly goes straight to, we're going to get married, this is the start of our story. When you watched it back, did you think, I don't think that skirt's too short?
No, I don't. No.
No.
Maybe it's just an excuse for him to get on it. Because I know I said earlier that, I don't know why she'd go for Cleaver, but I kind of get it in the same way that it's exciting. It's nice to have somebody
Mm.
pay you attention, and
Mm-hmm.
but no, he definitely just wanted an in,
Right, because I
for
was going
lack
to say,
of a better term.
no, no, perfect term. Like, yeah, like you're right. He wanted like something to talk to her about outside of work. Because I was watching, I was like, I don't think it's that bad. And then she wears the sheer top with the black bra, and I cackle at that. I'm like, yeah, go, girl, go in. And during this, she's gone to her. urban family, as she refers to her three best friends, you know, asks for guidance or help or advice with how to deal with Daniel Cleaver. Jude, who's Shirley Henderson, Shaz is
Yes.
Sally Phillips, and then Tom is Tom. And so yeah, they kind of say like, you know, we'd fire you, like, oh, he's fit as fuck, like, you know, just go for it. So they're very interesting friends in the sense of like they are Bridget's bad devil on her shoulder, aren't they?
Mm.
They are always encouraging her to do not necessarily the wrong thing, but maybe like the selfish thing or the thing that's okay for now, but maybe not the future.
Or maybe a bit out of a comfort zone as well, like
Mm.
pushing her. I think they've always got her best intentions at heart.
Hmm.
Like say, noticing throughout the film that there's only her friend group, her core friend group, and her father that I feel treat her well.
Well,
I find a lot of other people don't.
well, it's interesting because I've literally just read it and I've just blanked. Shirley Henderson's character Jude,
Mm.
she is quite cruel about her physical appearance. When Mark Darcy says that he likes her just the way that she is, she says not thinner with slightly bigger breasts or a slightly smaller nose.
Oh, you see, I just took that to be because that's what she would critique herself as. What Bridget
Oh,
would
do you
make.
think?
Yeah, I always take that as that's what you would expect someone to say in any situation.
Mm.
Pick a flaw out, and that's probably what Bridget would pick.
Oh, that's interesting. Oh, well, fair enough. Yeah.
That's not to say that's right. If she's being
Mhm.
horrible, that's not on.
That's not on,
Let's
is
hope she
it?
isn't.
Okay, so we're back in the office. Oh, the one thing I picked out, 2001 reference, they're smoking in the office.
They are.
I was shocked to see that. I was like, oh my
And in the
God.
pub as well.
Yeah. Yeah, smoking everywhere, literally in
Yeah.
houses, like in all locations. I just thought it was very odd to see that now. So the big thing is that they're going to they're organizing this big book launch, Kafka's Motorbike, the greatest book of our
Of our
time, or the
time.
greatest book of our time. Yeah. And so she wants to go and impress Daniel Cleaver. You know, I don't need you. I'm a strong, independent woman type. I love her getting ready in the montage with her friends, like, you know, giving her
Mm.
steer, and we see that she's going to wear Spanx.
Yeah.
Or whatever equivalent it would have been back in 2001.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you felt like this way, but when she's pulling them up, I'm like, they're doing fuck all
Nothing. Yes,
because there's
absolutely.
nothing to suck in.
I've put on Spanx before and it is a struggle. If you are not out of breath by the time you've pulled them up, then it's just not worth it. Just leave them off.
Truly, like I mean,
Mm.
I understand from a smoothing point of view that maybe like you just want to like smooth out any lumps or bumps if you're wearing something tight figure yeah, figure hugging,
Mm.
figure fitting, but it's not going to dramatically change anything. And I think
No.
that's how shapewear is always sold to us. And I have worn, oh God, so much shapewear. I've worn like not like a corset, but maybe more similar like to like a girdle.
Yeah.
Um, and the wires have been poking into me, and I felt like, oh, that was oh, the pain was worth it because apparently I was, you know, slimmer. I'm like, in,
Yeah.
in in what universe, you
I
know?
just don't anymore. I
Oh
don't
my
wear
God,
any
no.
of that anymore. I mean, to be honest, the majority of the time I wear like a sports bra. I don't even wear a proper bra anymore. Thank you, lockdown.
Yeah. No, I
There's
don't
no need.
wear underwire bras now unless I'm wearing a dress which really does call for it. But yeah,
Yeah.
I just literally have like, you know, a tank bra on and I'm never going back because this
No.
is comfort. You know, if you've got like big breasts, wires are not your friend. Like
No.
it's this idea that like oh everything has to be up and lifted and perky. Like, you know, gravity is really hard to fight against.
It
And so,
is.
so a single wire really isn't going to help all that much. So just lean into
No,
it.
especially when it attacks you as well. Like constantly
Yeah,
poking through is like, ow, what did I do to you?
honestly, it's the biggest betrayal. You're like,
It
oh,
is.
my good bra. The one, the one I never wash because it's good and I wear it all the time. It's fallen apart on me. How dare it? Oh, and then just looking at my notes, I really love when she's waxing. And she's smoking in in the bath, which again is just it's weird for me to see. And she
Yeah.
waxes and she goes, "Oh, gold." I think
Oh.
it's good. I mean, I appreciate we're both not from London, but I do think her accent is good.
It is. It's a brilliant accent.
Yeah.
And I think that's why she I can't, like you said before, there were other people for the role. I can't imagine anybody else in the role bar
No,
Renee.
I totally agree. I think they're doing a musical adaptation on the West End. So
No.
yeah, I read it on the Wikipedia, which kind of makes sense because they just adapt anything these days, don't they?
Yeah, yeah.
But I'd love to see who they're going to pick for Bridget because, like you say, I cannot imagine anyone but Renee because she just fits it perfectly. And yeah, her accent, I do think is really good. And again, when I was researching this, there was a lot of criticism that they were cast an American in a quintessentially British role, but then like she won everyone over because she's great.
She is grand, and she's a character actor. I mean, you look at Judy.
Yes.
I mean, I don't care a massive amount for Judy. It's not what I was hoping it would be, but her as Judy is incredible. You just think you're watching her. There's only
Yeah.
one time that her accent really bothers me, and it's at the end where she says stupid, and she like misses the T out and goes stupid. Oh, I hate the way you say that, but that's the only time that
What scene's that? I can't remember now.
it's when Mark has gone to get her a new diary, and she said
Oh,
like
right at the end.
stupid, and like yeah,
Yes. I know exactly where you are. Yes, yes, yes.
yeah.
Okay, so she gets to the party and she's ignoring Daniel Cleaver. She gets her glass of champagne. She interrupts Salman Rushdie having a conversation with some other random people. Do you know where the toilets are? and and then she runs in to Mark fucking Darcy.
Of course.
And I'm like, again, this probably does not help the Americans who think that the UK is super, super small because he is everywhere she goes. And I'm like, where was he the past 30 years in her life? Why all of a sudden is it now that he's in every social occasion she goes to?
I think a good point. I didn't think of that because surely you would have been to the turkey curry buffet before.
Turkey Carrot Buffet, because they were like kids playing in their paddling pool. There's another scene which we'll get to properly, but the dinner party scene with all the other smug married couples.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Oh.
she's there, he's there. So anyway, so Mark's there and Perpetua comes over. Does anyone want to introduce me? And we have that scene. And then Natasha, Miss Honey from
Hmm.
Matilda, walks
Well,
in.
I go, what is it? 13 Ghosts. I always think of her from 13 Ghosts.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
That is fun. Yeah, so Miss Honey, 13 Ghosts walks in and is like a work partner of Mark Darcy. Mark Darcy's this like barrister, she's an attorney or something like that. So Mark does the same like introductions, but he's rude to Bridget, undermines
Mhm.
Bridget, said that she used to play paddling in my paddling pool. And Natasha goes, "How odd." And then Perpetua and Natasha know each other. And
Yeah.
and they go off talking about like, are you gonna like, lock Mark Darcy down? She's like, give me time. Give me time. So yeah, I thought again, like, how small is London? Why does everyone know everyone?
He's clearly been hiding from her for all these years. That's the only explanation. He's
That's
Superman.
it. Yeah, that's it. I also think because maybe like there's a story where he's just got divorced, and maybe like because he was with his wife, he was in different social circles, and now he's divorced
Mm,
her. Maybe,
maybe.
maybe I might be going way too deep into this.
No, no, no.
Right. So then Bridget has to start the presentation, and she's going to introduce Mr. Fitzherbert.
It's perfect.
Tits pervert, tits pervert. And honestly, like every time I crack up at the oi, it's so funny. And so the microphone's not on. She has to shout for everyone's attention. Obviously, oi is the only thing she can think of. And she goes, "The man we all call Mr. Fitzherbert, because that is his
It's
name."
his name.
Like she's comedy genius. It's so funny. And, and then the microphone just needs to be turned on, and she's embarrassed, she's humiliated, and she's by the bar, and Mark Darcy sees her looking sullen, so he's going to go and actually speak to her, but then Daniel Cleaver sweeps in, and he's like, oh, let me take you out for dinner, Jones. And we find out that like Mark and Daniel know each other. They were from Cambridge, of course, because that's the only place that people can go to university is
That's the
Cambridge.
one school in the whole of London
The
is that.
one school. And so apparently they both went to Cambridge, and they were and Daniel Cleaver was best man at Mark Darcy's wedding. And you're just like, what? How is that possible? There's like, I don't know, like 9 million people in London. How do these people just happen to be best friends or ex-best friends? And it turns out that the reason why they're ex-best friends is because Mark Darcy slept with Daniel Cleaver's fiance. So we now think Mark Darcy's a nasty man. I wanted to ask you, do you think part of the reason Daniel finally goes after Bridget is because he sees that she also knows Mark Darcy?
No, because he was after her before
Yeah.
Mark came on the scene. So he was after her from the office and didn't know at that time that she knew Mark. It wasn't until the party that he did see it, and he was planning on making a
Mm,
move on Bridget before that. But I think that's maybe spurs him
hmm
because obviously he's got that competition instilled in him when it comes to Darcy.
hmm
And he's seen those two together and thinks, well, I'll get in there before he does.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you. I did. There's all that like kind of context and history we see before, but then it's only this watch I saw that when he kind of whisks her away, he looks at Mark almost
Mm.
like I've won type thing, and I was like, oh, is this just like men performing masculinity at each other again?
Yeah, probably.
A
Yeah.
a little bit of that.
I never understand why Cleaver is so cruel to Darcy because he was the one who did wrong. And
Hmm
it's always portrayed as if Mark Darcy was the one who did something wrong and he didn't. So I never understand why he's constantly got that rivalry with him, even into the second one, not the third, obviously, because he's supposed to have died in
Died. Yeah.
Bridget Jones's baby, but
hmm
hasn't actually died, apparently.
Allegedly.
Yeah. So I never understood why he had that rivalry with him. It just seems a bit cruel. But...
Yeah, I think I could sum it up, Faye, by just saying that Daniel is an arsehole.
He absolutely is. It's awful.
He's a really charming snake.
Mm,
So they have dinner, and then they go back to his, and they have set. Well, they're kind of making out, and I think it's really interesting that he carries her.
mm.
And I remember, like, well, even now, the idea of being carried or someone trying to attempt to carry me gives me a lot of anxiety as a bigger person because
Oh, same, yeah.
I'm like, babe, no, it's not gonna happen. And and I find it interesting again where we're being told by this film that she is big and yet like is carried no problem, you know?
Mm. Get Spanx on, no
No, yeah,
problem.
good point. Exactly
Mm.
that. And so he like, is flirting with her, and he sees that she's still got the Spanx on. And these little pants, fuck me, are ginormous. He's so charming in that moment. And I just really love it because like she's obviously embarrassed, and I understand why she's embarrassed, but he really is like totally okay with it.
Yeah.
I
I wonder if it's maybe to show the differences between him and Mark Darcy in that you feel in that moment before you know what Mark Darcy's about that he really is accepting of her and accepting of how she's looking down there at that
Mhm,
time, which would
mhm.
cause a lot of anxiety, probably not just for bigger people, but for any people
Anyone.
or any person, sorry.
I
So,
know a friend, and she'll listen to this podcast, so I won't say her name. But I remember we were housemates at uni, and she had taken someone home, and she was wearing shapewear,
Yeah.
and she like gave an excuse of like, oh, like you just give me 2 minutes, and she ran into her room and like whipped off her shapewear as quickly as possible, threw it into the bathroom. Like you would never know.
The effort
I
we
know.
have to go to is ridiculous.
And it's the effort to like keep up this illusion. And
Yeah.
I just always remember that. I always associate that memory with this scene because it
Yeah.
just, I feel like if, well, I mean, I guess we know later Bridget would genuinely change her underwear if she knew sex was coming. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I just like that. I think that is a reality.
But yeah, I think like I say what we get that flavor of what Daniel portrays as accepting her as she is
Mhm,
to what Mark portrays in accepting her as she is, and the two totally
mhm,
different things. He's all flirty and funny with it, but Mark is like, no, I really just like you how you are.
mhm.
Which we get to that scene because I love that scene so
I know, I
much.
know, I know. I'm so excited. Okay. So, they're sleeping together. She says that her weight is down. I think she's like lost like 8 pounds or something like because
Mm,
she has replaced food with sex. And this, I appreciate it's meant to be this throwaway line, this throwaway joke, but it's this idea that food isn't important. Like, we can go out without food, but we can't go without sex. They're interchangeable, allegedly. And I just think in a culture where, I mean, I'm thinking again, 2001, we're in slim, fast, heavy replacement shake, heavy diet
mm-mm.
culture. I'm like, that is not a good message.
Nope, it is not. I mean, they even go so far as into the next film, in Edge of Reason, have her go to a Thai prison to lose weight. So it's not saying I've replaced. It's not the most offensive thing if you look back on it, because that's the most offensive thing.
Shit.
Um,
I have not
yeah,
seen that film in a very long time, and I am
it's really good.
gagged. I'm gagged that that is actually part of the story.
Yeah, it's literally when she goes to prison and comes back, she's like bragging about how much weight she's lost.
Oh my God. So you just put me on to like a tangent. Do you watch Stranger Things?
Yes,
Okay, have you seen the latest season?
yes.
So Hopper is in a Russian prison, and
Hmm.
the actor David Harbour has lost weight. I actually don't know if he lost weight for the role or if it was another reason. I don't know. But I saw so many people, podcasters, reviewers, people on TikTok being like, oh, he looks so good now. And I'm like, he's literally meant to have been starved in a prison.
And
That is not
FYI,
good.
he looked so good before, by the way. There was nothing wrong with the way he looked before
But
at all.
but also everyone thought that. Like the amount of like fan cams I've seen of David Harbour, like Dad Bob Supreme, like all this, like everyone really fancies the hell out of him as they should. He's a very good looking man.
Hmm.
But like even in the film, I think like Winona Ryder's character says something like along those lines, or even the kids say like, "Oh, you've lost so much weight in a positive way." I'm like, this is not good. This man has starved. This is not positive, and it really, it's so weird. I heard on a podcast where they're like, "Oh, maybe I should go to a Russian prison for a year," and I'm like, "Excuse me, have you check yourself,
I know,
please?"
I know. Terrible behavior. Terrible.
So I mean, I guess like Stranger Things stole the storyline from Bridget Jones' The Edge of Reason.
Or maybe they stole it from Romeo and Michelle, where she gets mono to lose weight.
Oh well, there you go. I guess like
Yeah.
it's any of this, isn't it? Like where people there was that Netflix show, that fat phobic one that came out years ago, Insatiable, and she
Oh, and yeah, I never watched it, but I heard about it. Yeah.
no, I never saw it because I'm not going to watch that trash. But the
Hmm.
storyline was that she was a bigger girl. Over the summer, she breaks her jaw, so her jaw's wired shut, which means she cannot eat like solid foods, and she loses 50 pounds. And then she goes into school, and everyone's like, "Oh my God, you're hot stuff." I'm like,
Oh,
this is not positive.
that is not it.
It's
No,
not the one, is it?
no.
So, they're having sex, and just casually, just they're having sex, and her mum rings her, and she has that line, which is like, "There's a truth universally, accepted that when one part of your life is going well, another part isn't or fails miserably."
Yeah.
And we find out that her mum and dad are separating, and her mum is coming from a place of like, your dad doesn't pay me attention, he takes me for granted. I want someone, she's in her like winter years of her life. She doesn't want to spend those years feeling sorry for herself, and she's found someone who is this like QVC type telly shopper salesman.
Julian.
Julian. Oh, well, remember Julian. And then we go to the mini break. So mini break means true love. Did you know that, Faye?
Apparently so, yeah.
Right? I'm just
Mm.
if my partner can hear me right now,
Just
FYI,
scream true love down. True love.
it means true love. And we get there, and it's this beautiful, like, grand house, and there's a wedding happening. But obviously, Bridget and Daniel are not part of the wedding. But guess who's there?
Darcy.
This what is going on? Why is this the
Stalking her.
smallest
Absolutely
world?
stalker.
Yes, so Mark and Natasha are there to get some work done.
Hmm.
And there's a scene where they're on the boats, and you've got Natasha and Mark being very serious, very proper, and you have Daniel and Bridget being really silly. And I would 100% be on the silly boats.
Of course.
Like, they looked really fun. This is where I was going to, like, the defense of Daniel. Like, Daniel obviously seduces Bridget, and I feel like as an audience member, I am being seduced because I'm like fully buying it. I'm
Yeah.
like hook, line, and sinker. This, like, he's being so fun and silly. It's not too serious. And unfortunately, when they get to they go back to the room, she asks, "Do you love me?" And he will not answer her. And I'm like, Bridget, this isn't good. This
Mm.
isn't good. And then wake up the next morning, and he turns out he can't go to the party that they're meant to be going to on the next day, which is Uncle Jeffrey and his wife's Tarts and Vickers party. It's a costume
Yes.
party. And so he's like, "Oh, I can't come with you." She's really upset because she's probably been bragging to people, definitely bragging to her family, her parents, that, she's got this boyfriend, and he's standing her up, basically. What do you think of that? Do you think he is legitimately standing her up, or do you think he really does need to go back to London and work on some stuff?
No. I think he has been given a better option in
Mm,
I want to call her Aurora. I think
Lara.
Laura, thank you. I
Yeah.
knew something raw at the end.
Yeah, you were close, yeah.
I think he's been given a better option in her because like he self-admittedly says later on, she's younger,
Mm-hmm.
she's American, she's
Mm-hmm.
confident,
Mm-hmm.
a, a lot of what Bridget isn't.
Mm-hmm.
And sadly, I think Bridget was something just to mess around with. As is confirmed, like it shows a lot of what he thinks of her when he turns up later to her birthday party and went, "Oh, I thought you'd be alone."
Oh, I know.
What do you think of her? Why do you what your
Yeah.
impression is disgusting of her? So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think he was a dirty rat who got a better offer.
That's
Yeah.
but yeah, I thought that too. I was like, it sounds like he doesn't want to be seen with her.
Yeah.
And again, I you see this a lot in media, and unfortunately, this is also a truth in reality. If you're a bigger person, I'm going to say like a bigger woman, but I'm sure this also happens for bigger men, just
Mm.
because it's my own experience. You can get some men who want to have sex with you, who like you in that sense, but they don't want to be seen with you.
Oh, I've 100% had that. Yes,
Yes.
I've been in that situation where they're quite happy to have you to themselves, but when it
Mhm.
comes to going public, they don't want to.
No, exactly that. And I think like this obviously would have been the like coming out, as it were, as being an official couple. And I think he's like, no, I don't want to be associated with Bridget on like a public stage like that.
Yeah.
So he lets her go on her own, and she is putting on this little bunny outfit to look like the tart of the
Which
tarts and
she
Vickers.
rocks, by the way. She does rock it.
Oh, Faye, I love it. It's such a good visual. She
Hmm.
looks so hot. I was just like, I'm so into it. And actually, this is the bit that I found quite interesting is like we've been told that, she's got these body hang-ups, she's insecure about her body, but then she's wearing this incredibly risque outfit in
Yeah.
front of a party full of people. And I appreciate she probably is thinking, well, everyone else is going to be dressed to a similar degree. I'm not going to be the odd one out.
Mm.
But still, it would take a lot of confidence to
Absolutely, yeah.
dress like that. And she gets to the party, and it turns out actually the tarts and Vickers idea had been thrown out the window, and everyone's just dressed normally, apart from a few odd people who didn't get the message.
Oh, Honor Blackman in this scene. Oh my goodness, it's so funny.
Honestly,
Apparently, she didn't get the message either. Oh, yes, I did.
it's very exotic.
And obviously, poor Jim Broadbent sat there having a cigarette in his vicar's outfit.
Yes, but there's that guy with the full-on bishop's hat. It's so good. I just love this. Like the narrative is really well done, where like not everyone got the message for whatever reason,
Hmm.
and so you see these people who also fought like who are also dressed up like tarts and Vickers is so well done, and
Yeah,
of course Faye, Mark fucking Darcy, and Natasha are at this party again.
again.
Again, they're literally everywhere she goes. I feel so sorry for Bridget. She's just like, she's on her own. Oh, there's a whole. We understand that there's a bit of confusion over like the storyline she's been given because Una says, where's your boyfriend? I hope he's good enough for our Bridget." And Mark Darcy says, "I can say with complete confidence he isn't."
Hmm.
And I think Bridget says, "Oh, I think he would say the same about you," because she thinks that he had an affair with Daniel's fiance. But I also think she mishears Mark. I think she
Yeah.
thinks that he's being cruel, but he's actually being kind, and he's
Hmm.
saying that you are better than Daniel. But she's not expecting that, so I think she goes straight to the defense.
Can I say as well, throughout this whole storyline of Darcy's ex-wife,
Yeah.
they are quite racist with
Oh my God, you're
her.
so right. I did write that down right at the beginning. Yeah, so they make a point of saying continuously that she's Japanese and that
Full race.
yeah, and they're not
Mm.
a favorable race. And it's really a very odd punchline that is continuously said throughout the film. It made me very uncomfortable. I was like, it doesn't help the plot in any way.
I wonder if that's Richard Curtis's influence, 'cause,
Mr. Curtis, you got a lot to answer for, mate.
yes.
So she heads back to London. She goes to Daniel's house. I guess, I don't know if that was part of the plan, but she wants to see her boyfriend. And she's feeling a bit down because obviously she feels a bit embarrassed. And he's like, "Oh, well, I need to finish up here and then I'll meet you back at your house in like an hour." She's like, "Okay, cool." But she hears some noise and but there's no one there. She thinks, "Oh, I'm going crazy. I'm just gonna go." But then she sees the pink cardigan on,
Mm.
on the hook
Oh,
and she runs
Bridge.
upstairs and then she runs into like his ensuite and there is Lara, who is this incredibly young, the skin of a goddess. I was like,
Mm.
oh, and she's completely naked apart from this folder that's like covering her her private parts so we can keep it
Yes.
PG. And obviously Bridget's stunned and Daniel says, "Oh, this is Lara from the New York office." And Lara goes, "Hey there." uh Bridget and then Bridget turns to Daniel and you hear Lara say, "I thought you said she was thin."
Oh, it's horrible, that scene. It's awful. I feel for her so much. It's gut punching. Just to have that, to have the worst that you think about yourself, have it told back to you by another woman is, oh,
It's truly callous. And I when I was watching, I was thinking, how did that conversation go?
mm,
Daniel goes to Laura, "Oh, I'm actually in a relationship with Bridget. She's really beautiful and she's thin." And then Laura went, "Oh, okay, well, let's have sex anyway, because I don't give a fuck about your girlfriend, and obviously you don't care because that's why I'm here." And then she's
boy.
like, "Oh, go on."
Sorry, I thought that they'd been together for a while when she came in because she says you only met her yesterday. And he goes, "No, I didn't. It was quite a while ago." So I think, but what does that say about her that she's okay with him sleeping with somebody else?
Yes, they've definitely. I don't know if they've been together,
Hmm.
but they know of each other and they've obviously, I can imagine they've been flirting. They might have got together
Right.
when they went because he says we knew each other in the New York office. So maybe when he was in New York, they were shagging, and now maybe they're just doing like long distance flirting, and now
Ah,
she's in
maybe, yeah.
London. We really don't know. We're not given a lot. But whatever reason, he has told Lara that Bridget's thin and she disagrees with that fact. And I guess it'd be interesting to know what Daniel truly thought. Like, is that Lara being a mean girl? I mean, she is obviously a mean girl, but is she being a mean girl? Or did Daniel lie to Lara and pretend that Bridget was thinner? And I really want my listeners to know that I
Air
think
quotes.
Bridget is thin. But like, does Daniel lie and pretend that Bridget's thinner to look like he is having sex with someone who is more of the beauty standard?
I believe so. Yes.
Mm.
Especially as you were saying in that he doesn't want to be seen with her in public. I feel
Such a
it's
good
better
point.
for his image if he
Yes.
mentions that he's sleeping with someone who's not, again, air quotes, bigger, because she isn't big. But
No.
yeah.
That's yeah, totally right. So I think like the whole that whole sequence then of him not wanting to be seen with Bridget, him cheating on her, saying that she's actually, thinner than she is, and Laura calling him and her out on it. You're right.
Mm.
I think that all does actually paint a really fucking nasty picture for Daniel.
Yeah.
I mean, and
Yeah.
again, like this is when the film, goes, you were charmed by him and now he's a snake. And you're like, God damn it.
God damn
Obviously,
you, Hugh.
God damn you, Hugh, you gorgeous hair. So she obviously very depressed. She goes into the office and he wants to talk to her. And he says that, we're too similar. We're two people of a certain age. And I don't know whether like, Lara being so young or an
Mhm.
American and the confidence, he says that they got engaged. So what I found really interesting, because I never picked up on it before, but it was my partner who was watching with me, goes, what's the age difference between Hugh and Renee? And I went, what do you mean? He was like, well, Hugh must be older than Renee. I was like, is he? I would have thought they were the same age. No, they're
Mm.
not. No, they're not. Hugh and Colin Firth are 9 years older than Renee Zellweger.
Okay.
And then I'm going to blow your mind a minute. Perpetua, remember she's senior.
Yeah.
She's 1 day younger than Hugh and Colin.
Oh.
So she's the same age as those two, and yet the film paint her out to be this much older, frumpy character, and they are the same age.
This would literally be in this situation then. You're Bridget and I'm the senior because I'm
Oh my god, you're
9 years up,
Perpetua.
10 years old. I'm Perpetua. Oh no.
No, no, but Perpetua comes in. Perpetua comes in and defends Bridget, and we love to see it.
She does. Can I just say the saddest thing about the scene where she does go see Daniel in
Mhm.
the office is the fact that she's changed how she looks.
Yeah,
So she's got the trainers on, she's
yeah,
got the long skirt on, the baggy top, and it's just so downtrodden.
yeah,
It's done to her, and it's horrible to see.
yeah. I totally agree. She's in a bad way, and I don't blame her. Like what an awful thing to happen, and the fact that she then has to see them together in the glass office.
Mhm.
It's very Big Brother, I felt.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then he tells her that they're engaged, and you're like, this is someone
Oh.
who wouldn't even call Bridget his girlfriend, wouldn't even go to the party with her because he was embarrassed to be with her, didn't want to commit to her. And within, yeah, I don't know how much time has passed, but a couple days, maybe a week, he's proposed to Lara. Like,
Mm.
and it comes back to that idea, like Lara is the prize. She's a trophy. She's something to be presented with, and Daniel wants to show her off, where Bridget
Yeah.
wasn't that to him.
Like a very 2001 term, but arm candy. That's what she was.
Perfect though.
Mm.
Perfect phrase for that. But absolutely. Um, she does say, so this is when she has like her next level of I need to turn my life around or else I'm gonna get eaten by Alsatians. And she has pics of herself on like models on the fridge, and they're like, meant to be slender models, sexy models with fishnets.
I think one of them's Victoria Beckham, if I'm not mistaken. I'm sure it's Victoria Beckham in Spice Girl era.
Ah, I love
If
that
not, it's
reference.
very similar.
Yes. Yes. And she says that she's not going to let a bad man and an American stick insect,
Hmm.
ruin her life. And I did, as much as I hate Laura, I'm like, no, we don't body shame.
No, no, no.
I don't
I
think
can
that's okay.
understand a hurt, but
I get
yeah,
it. I get where she's
yeah.
coming from. And I hate Laura, but like,
And
she's
I
just a
do like
slender woman.
Yeah, and I do like the transformation from how when she had her first epiphany at the start of the film, it was all self-indulgent, and this one is getting on it and pulling a finger out of her butt and just actually doing it and
Yes.
exercising and dropping the cigarettes and stuff and just going, right, okay.
Yes. So we see her like throw like bottles of
Mm,
wine and vodka into the bin. These like get a man books as she replaced them with like self-help books, how to be like an
yeah.
independent woman, how to get what you want. And yeah, goes to spin class. I mean, I remember that it's that scene from the trailer, you know, when she's like
Mm.
go 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 on the spin class and then falls over afterwards because her legs are like jelly.
I never thought that was a thing until that happened, by the way. Not on the
Oh.
spin class. I was doing a cross trainer.
Uh-huh.
And by the time I got off it, my legs were just like jelly, and I'm like, "Oh, this is a thing."
You were
Didn't know that's
Bridget.
real. She wasn't lying.
No, she wasn't lying. And then she decides she's going to pivot her career and she wants to get into TV. Why?
Um, because TV's glamorous, and you've
Mm.
made it if you're in television, I
Oh.
think.
Yeah, I find it interesting because I wrote in my notes, she's terrible at public speaking. And I'm like, maybe you shouldn't do TV, Bridge. But your point stands, like it is glamorous, right? It's cool.
Mm. Well, that's what she thinks. I think to her that's the ideal of where she
Mm.
needs to be. But yeah, I'm not sure why she would go into something when she is so poor at public speaking. That is really weird. But
Yeah.
yeah, she pulls it off anyway, and
She does. So I also thought it was interesting because she's gone from like print media with publishing books and then
mm.
going into like visual media. And I was, oh, I wonder if this meant to be like, I've upgraded.
It's been a fair few years since I read the book. It's probably been about at least 18 years since I read the book.
Mm,
But there may be something in there that explains why she
YTV.
makes that jump. I'll have to revisit it. I've got it upstairs somewhere.
Oh, yeah, it'd be interesting to see like, yeah,
Mm.
where that actually comes from. So she's going to resign and she tells Daniel she's leaving. And he's like, well, you've got a 6 week notice period. And she's like, well, surely you don't want someone here who's fannying around with the press releases and swanning around in short skirts, still working for you. And Perpetua steps in saying, like, if she doesn't leave, I'm going to fire her for being completely spineless. Daniel trying to like, keep her like, no, 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 don't go, don't go. And then she says, well, if it means working within 10 yards of you, then I would rather have a job wiping Saddam Hussein's arse.
Good for you, Bridge.
And everyone's like, and then RESBCT comes on.
Yeah.
Really good, like, I mean, actually, the soundtrack to this film is just awesome.
Oh, yeah, it's
Oh,
brilliant.
it's so many good like needle drops, and I'm like, yeah, empowering. You go, girl.
But Robbie Williams is all over it. Like Robbie Williams is everywhere on this
Is
soundtrack,
he?
and I'm like, yeah. He's got like two songs at the end. He's got a song in the middle.
Oh my
He came back
god.
for Edge of Reason as well to sing Misunderstood.
Oh
So
my
they really
god,
love Robbie
Robbie.
Williams for some
They
reason.
do. Well, I guess
Yeah.
like again, like if I think British, I'm sorry, Robbie, to say it, manufactured pop
Uh-huh.
from the early noughties, I'm thinking Robbie Williams.
You can say what you want now. He's away with the aliens. It's all right.
Oh, he is, isn't he? Good for him.
Yeah.
You do you, man. I'm just having a look at the soundtrack now. Oh yeah, there you are. Yeah, Robbie. Robbie. Oh, we're gonna get on to Jerry Halliwell soon as well.
Yeah.
So she gets a job at Sit Up Britain. She's like a correspondent. She makes a fool of herself in her first gig when she like slides down the fireman's pole, and she has arse the side, or is it backside the size of Brazil?
Mhm.
And she has to go to this dinner party, which we talked about earlier, with all these smug married couples. But she goes,
Yeah.
couples, lots of smug married couples. And they're all these couples and they're all the same. They're all just like copies of each other. And of course, Mark and Natasha are there. And Natasha says straight away, not in your bunny outfit, I see. And I'm like,
Oh, shut up,
fuck,
Natasha.
fuck you, Natasha. Like, get out. And so Cosmo is the character's name, goes, why are there, oh no, sorry, it's his wife, goes, why are there so many why are offices filled with so many single women in their 30s now? And like everyone stops to look at Bridget as if she's the correspondent for all the
Yeah.
30-year-old women. Like, and she says something like, oh, it doesn't help that like our skins are full of scales or something like
Yeah.
that, right? And then she goes, "Tell me, like, is it one of four that manages to end in divorce, or one in three?" And Mark comes straight in, going, "One in three." And I'm like, "Yes, Mark, tell it how it is. Back our queen up. I love it." And she leaves. She goes to leave because I do not blame her. It sounds horrifically awful. And Mark comes down and he tells her that he likes her just the way she is. And she goes,
Oh,
not for not the awful vulgar mother or the drinking smoke. He goes, no, 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 just the way you are.
I love that.
I was gonna say, I
I love
think
it.
every person wants to find someone who is so happy with who you are
Mm.
as a baseline. And I think so many relationships, people want to change you or
Yeah.
mold you, or you hear it a lot with women who are like, "Oh, I can fix him," that kind of narrative.
Hmm.
And I think hearing Colin Firth, oh, Colin fucking Firth, the absolute loveliest man, telling you that he like likes you just the way you are, like I just die. I'd be like, oh, I could die happy.
That was the point I started to have when I was younger, a bit of a crush on Colin Firth. I was like, oh, he's so decent and I love him. And then he's obviously brilliant as well in Love Actually. And I watched him recently,
Yes.
Empire of Light, and I was like, oh no,
Mm.
we're back to not liking you now.
Yeah, I,
Horrible in that film.
I actually haven't seen it, but is he Olivia Colman's husband?
No, he's Olivia
Uh,
Colman's boss, who very much takes advantage of the fact that she is going through a mental breakdown. Um,
oh no, I don't like the sound of
yeah,
this.
he's a shit to her. He's
Did
horrible to her.
did you see The Staircase?
No.
Right. So I love true crime. I know The Staircase. What I'm trying to say, The Staircase true crime very, very well.
Mm.
And I've watched the documentary. And when I heard that Colin Firth was going to play this guy, I was like, I love you, Colin Firth, but I've never heard you do an accent. And I'm a bit nervous because this guy's like proper, proper American. Like, I don't know, it's County
Mm.
Durham, North Carolina. He shocked me at how good he is. Like,
Yeah.
I forgot it was Colin Firth. He was so
Oh.
like a chameleon. It was, and Toni Collette's the wife, and obviously Toni Collette, absolute queen of queens. You know you're in safe hands. But I was so surprised at how good he was. He was so sinister in a way. I mean, obviously it makes sense because
Mm.
obviously he's been accused of murder, but
Yeah.
he just very, very good. Like brilliant.
I'll have to get that one checked out.
No, I would. It was on
Mm.
Now TV.
Mm.
So yes, we love this moment. He likes her just the way that she is. She obviously goes to her friends, which we spoke about earlier, and they're all a bit like surprised. And Shazza just goes, "Fuck me."
I think it's good surprise for them though. I think they're happy for her.
Mm,
They're happy that somebody said this to her, and it's a really lovely feeling. And I
yeah.
think they're backing her in this scene for me.
Yeah, I agree. And then, like, because Tom goes, "But this is someone you hate, right?" And she's like, "Yeah, hate him." But like, obviously, she's there going, "But why do I hate him?"
Yeah.
And then she has to go and deal with, oh no, sorry, then we get like a weight update. So she's now 138 pounds. She's 33 years old, so she's
Mm.
another year older. And then there's this big case, this big like human rights case, and her boss like, you got to go get the interview with the defendants. And she misses it because she's gone to go get some cigarettes. And she's like, "Oh no, I'm going to be sacked." But Mark is there again. He's like, "Oh no, like no one got interviews, but I can help you," because he is their barrister. And she gives this really lovely, actually professional interview with these people. And I noticed at the end she goes, "This is Bridget Jones for a Sit Up Britain. Well, with a bit of a crush now, actually." And I was like, "That's
Yeah.
Richard Curtis," because
Yeah.
no one uses actually in that phrasing.
God damn you, Richard
I
Curtis.
mean, can this man write dialogue? No.
No. I've always said Richard Curtis is far more damaging to film than horror films will ever be. He gives this idea that you will grow up and everything will be under control and you will meet the love of your life and you'll have the perfect family, and it doesn't happen.
Mhm.
And people buy into it so much. He's a life ruiner. Nah, screw you, Curtis.
There we go. I mean, yeah, he is just so unimaginative,
Yes.
very heteronormative. We're not fan. I mean,
No,
to be fair, actually, I do like About Time. I think
I've
that's
not seen About Time yet.
oh, I do think that's a good film. I do, and
I like Love Actually, but
I
it's
mean,
very problematic now. Very, very problematic.
yeah, that's the thing, right? So yeah, so it's Bridget's birthday, and she is going to. I don't know why, but she's cooking a meal for her friends. Surely they
Mhm.
should be cooking her the meal anyway. And
Yeah.
she's having a bit of a mare in the kitchen. There's a knock at the door. She thinks it's the guys, but no, it's Mark, and he wants to congratulate her on her interview because it's done really well. And so he comes in to help, and it's just a catastrophe in the kitchen. There's blue soup, blue string soup, and there's this orange mush. And so he helps. He creates an omelet, and he gets real stuck in, and like he shows like his humor, like just stir it, Una. Like it's a really nice moment where like he's humanizing, he's warming up, and he doesn't feel like he has to be this. I can imagine that he obviously comes from a very well-to-do house, that he's probably
Mm.
had to have like a stiff upper lip for a lot of his life. But with Bridget, who is just so no filter, our Bridge, so I
Mm.
think that really helps him like open up as well.
How she didn't kiss him in that moment, I've no idea, because I would have totally kissed him in that moment. He was just so adorable.
She is very hesitant with Mark, and I guess I wonder like maybe it's because she's still so like crushed after Daniel.
Yeah, yeah, probably. Yeah.
She didn't want to jump into something. Yeah, I guess she's just a bit wary,
Mm.
maybe. But you're right. I mean, anyone else, I would have no restraint. And so yeah, then so they're having the dinner with the friends, and they make the whole to our Bridget, who we love just the way she is, and she's so embarrassed. And I'm like, all of our friends have done this to us.
Yes, I was just going to say this is my best friend through and through, Mercer. This is totally something he would do to me.
Yeah, it's like when someone sets you up and like I have never, and you're like, fuck off.
Mm.
No, it's a really lovely moment. And of course, there's a knock at the door, and it's Daniel. And to your point, you said earlier, he comes and he thought, I thought he's got a bottle of wine. I thought you'd be alone. I realized like how stupid that was, or whatever he says. And
Little
I'm like,
shit.
mate, to your point, like she's got her urban family. Like they would never let her be on her own on her birthday.
No.
So just again, you just wonder like how much does Daniel actually know about Bridget? Like, if they were having, pillow talk after sex, was he even listening to her? Probably not, because he doesn't give a shit about her.
For me, this is him turning up because he's broken up with the
Uh-huh.
American and he's looking for an easy lay.
Yeah, no,
Again,
100%.
I've been in that position where somebody will be,
Mm-hmm.
with somebody and then they'll stop being with someone and they'll go, hey, man, and hitting you
Oh,
up. It's like, hang
uh-huh.
on, Jesus, because he sees it as easy, I think.
Yeah.
I think he thinks that like Bridget's just gonna come back to him.
Yeah, absolutely. So he like makes her like come and like talk to him. Like takes her away from her birthday party to make it all about him. And he basically says that it was going so fast with Lara. She broke up with me when she saw that I wasn't over you. And I was just like, it's just lies. It's lies. And I just think, Lara, not in any way defending Lara, but she probably saw what an arsehole he was. I was like, I could
Hmm.
do better than this arsehole. I'm young and confident, to use his words. I don't need this.
Absolutely.
And yeah, so you're right. He probably wanted a bit of an ego boost. Bridge will be down for like, a pity sex on her
Mm.
birthday. I'm doing her a favor, right? Because it's her birthday. And you're just like, what an arsehole. And then Mark leaves because he doesn't want to be in the same room as his man. He doesn't want to compete. Like I think probably, he's probably a bit bruised from the last competition they had. And he's like,
Yeah.
I don't want to like be involved. And so he leaves, but then he comes back and oh bugger me, he's back. And
Oh, bugger me, he's back. I love the way he delivers that line. Oh,
no,
bugger me,
I know we're meant to hate him, but he's so good, so funny. And then Mark goes, all right, Cleaver, outside. He's like, what? He's like, you heard me outside. He's like, oh, should I bring my dueling pistols or my sword? And they go out, and Mark says, I should have done this ages ago. And he punches him right in the face.
Good.
And comes as the most beautiful sequence of two men who have never fought in their lives are now fighting. Tom's excitement is so funny. Like running over to the Greek restaurant, be like, "There's a fight!
It's a real fight!"
Oh, I love his face in that moment. And all the wait staff come out and they're fighting, and the friends are like, "Oh, whose side are we on?" And they're like, "Oh, Mark's obviously, because like he likes Bridget just the way that she is, and didn't leave her brokenhearted." And then but then Bridget says, "Yeah, but Mark did cheat on, I can't get this right, on Daniel's fiance, or so she believes."
Yeah.
So that, oh, it's a real tough one to call. And obviously they fight, they crash into the restaurant, they're causing chaos. And eventually they're meant to have a truce, but then Daniel can't just let it go. He calls him a wanker, and Daniel punches him to the ground. And Mark punches him to the ground. Honestly, the most samey English names. Like,
yeah.
Daniel and Mark are the same in my head. So it's really
Paul and John.
I know,
Yeah.
right? I just really hard to differentiate. Bridget goes, "What is your problem?" Which I guess, where is she coming from with that? What is she saying there?
I don't know. It does come a bit out of nowhere because she's been getting on with him really
Yeah.
well. And then all of a sudden she's attacking him for something she thinks he's done, but hasn't actually been proven that he's done. So I don't know. I don't know where that one comes from. Again, it might be something in the book that I've just
Mm.
completely forgotten about that leads to that. And there's been a bad edit. Not a bad edit, but an edit.
Yeah, I don't know whether to your point, that if there's something in the back that we don't know. I just always thought, like, why is she so offended by Mark giving that final punch? Like, does she not hear Daniel call him a wanker, maybe? And maybe like she just sees the truce and then sees Mark punch him one last time, and maybe that's I don't know.
That would make sense.
That would make
Yeah.
sense, but that's not clear in the film. And so Mark goes off. He says something so pompous. He's like, "I realize I've been acting under a false apprehension," or something like that. And I'm like, what? Who speaks like that,
He's
man?
so English, isn't he? He's
Yeah.
so upper class.
I was like, I don't know what the fuck you just said, mate. Just go. And
Lucy says what?
yeah, I was like, yeah. And then so Daniel thinks he's won. He's like, "Oh, let's go upstairs." And Bridget's like, "Nah, she says something really poignant. I can't remember what she said. Like, that's not enough for me.
Yeah, just someone taking a chance on her that isn't quite sure isn't enough
Yes,
for her.
quite
Yeah.
sure. That's it." And she walks off, and it's Christmas, and we go back to her parents' house. Oh, Jim Broadbent does not keep a clean house, bless him.
No, he doesn't.
I can appreciate he's probably depressed, but yeah, I was like,
Yeah.
it's a messy, and well, her weight is at this point 140 pounds.
Jesus,
So
how will she get out the door? Sorry, that was sarcasm.
oh my god, it's so true. Oh yeah, so it's also Christmas. Like, who doesn't gain weight at Christmas? Come on.
Exactly.
And then her mum has come back. She has left Julian, who was purple up close, and asks,
I love that line when she goes, "Between me and you, I'm not sure that Julian isn't a bit of a shit." Oh, bless her.
Oh, that line is very good. Yeah, so she asks Jim Broadbent to take her back, but like, he needs to make more of an effort. He needs to contribute. And he's like more than willing. He's like, absolutely, let's get back to it. So Bridget's very happy her mum and dad are back together. The next morning, she comes down in her jammies, and her mum's like, "Get back upstairs. We've got the Darcy's Ruby wedding anniversary to go to." And she's like, "Oh no, I'm not going to that." And then she explains that, oh, it's always a bad time for Mark because this is when his wife left him. And then she says, "Oh, well, she probably had good reason." He's like, "Well, no, like, it was his best friend from Cambridge, ran off with his best friend from Cambridge." And we realize, oh, Daniel's the shit.
Yes.
And he's been, what I find bizarre about this, Faye, is that, like, Daniel knows this story is so bad, but he has to tell it to make himself be in the Mark position to
Yeah,
get sympathy. Like, mate, that's clearly if you have to do that with this story, you know you're the terrible. Why are you telling people this story?
because he's a dick. He's just a massive dick.
He's just a dickhead. And so Bridget realizes this whole time she's been holding this nervousness over Mark because he had this affair, but actually he didn't. He's always been the victim. So she's
Mm.
like, right, I've got to go and I've got to tell him. So she goes. I love the driving scene, like Jim Broadbent, like this in the back, like oh.
I love the outfit she chooses for the party. It's so
Yeah,
simple, but it looks so classy on her.
yeah. I mean, that's it. She is a classy bird when she needs to be.
Mm.
Because I really like going back all the way back to the book event. I love what she's wearing there.
Mm.
It's really,
Yeah.
really nice. So yeah, so she gets there, she takes Mark to the side into like the cloakroom area and she tells him that she likes him too. And if he wants to pop by, that would be nice. And he goes, oh, okay. And then he like I've got to go because the speech is about to start. And we find out that actually Mark and Natasha are going to New York and being partners in some kind of law firm in New York. And hopefully will
Hopefully
be
we'll be
partners
partners
in law as
as
well.
well. Yeah.
And then they go dun dun dun, dun like that. And everyone's like, oh, I begged him not to say anything. Um,
Oh,
I know. And then
I don't
Bridget,
like that woman. I really don't
no,
like her.
Miss
She's awful.
Honey. And then Bridget, obviously no filter Bridget goes, no, no. What a shame. And she like has to spin it and be like, what a shame for England to lose our top barristers. Also, I wanted this really, really does not matter, but I was like, there's no way that Mark and Natasha can just go to America and practice American law.
No,
You
there
can't
isn't.
even you in the UK, English and Scottish law are different. So like if you have learned English law, you cannot do law in Scotland, let
Mm.
alone go all the way to America and apparently practice law there. So I was like,
Yeah.
that makes no sense. So obviously they're gonna go to America. She goes back to London and her friends come along like, you know what, all of this shit is just it's horrible. Let's treat you. We're gonna go a mini break to Paris. And I'm like, I love this. Go to Paris. Let's go. And let's get your passport and pants. And they pack up everything and they're fitting into the tiniest of minis. Of course,
Mhm.
he has a mini because we're in London and they only drive minis there, Faye.
It's the London way. If you don't drive minis, you drive a red bus. That's the law.
Or like the Spice Bus from the Spice Girls
Oh,
movie.
yeah. Now you're talking.
I love it. So yeah, so he's like just like got this image of like him like forcing Shazza into the back of the
Yeah.
mini, and she's trying to like lock up the flat, and Mark pops up from the snow, and she's like, "Oh, like what are you doing here? I thought you were meant to be in America." She said it like that, and he's like, "No, no, I realized I didn't say goodbye." And she's like triple checking, like, so you're not going to America, you're staying here, and they're not kissing. It's very like, not yet, not yet. And then obviously the friends are all like, oh my god, we missed the come the fuck on, Bridget. Oh,
Iconic line.
oh.
I say it at least once a week. Come the fuck on, Bridget.
The cadence of it is so rhythmic. Come the fuck on, Bridget. It's so good. And obviously, like they're about to kiss, and they all honk the horns and like stick their tongues out. It's like, so are you coming to Paris? Are you coming to fucking Paris then? And she's like, no. He's like, good, there's no fucking room anyway, and off they go. And they go back into the flat, Mark and Bridget, and he's like horny. He is like
Yeah.
kissing her neck, like trying to
Mhm.
like get into her. And she's like, no, not yet, because she wants it to be perfect, right? So she goes back into her bedroom to change into the very tiny knickers, and he's reading. She's got like magazines, and her diary is out as well. Rookie error. Come on.
How lucky is it as well that it lands on the page that's describing a slur against him?
I
It's
know.
very lucky.
I know. I was like, oh, like it's like almost like she was reading it just then,
Mm.
how much she hates Mark Darcy. was it a good thing his clever wife left him. It's like really
Yeah.
nasty stuff. And he leaves the flat. She hears the door slam, sees him walk away, and she's shouting after him, but to no avail. Comes out and realizes that he's been reading the diary where she's not been nice to him. So she's like, I've got to go chase after him. A real rom-com moment. She puts on her trainers, puts on her cardi, she runs out in just her knickers down the snow, finds some high street, loses him, and she's devastated. She's like, oh, I've thrown away my chance. He comes out and he's actually got her a new diary. Because diaries are full of shit. Everyone knows that. And he goes, oh, of course I know that. Just, fresh start with a new diary. And they kiss. People are watching. And then she goes, wait a second. Posh boys don't kiss like that.
Oh, yes, they fucking do. Oh my God, that
Hello,
line.
Colin.
I want to say I'm a feminist, but when Colin Firth utters that line, I am so not.
No,
Mm-mm.
no. I mean, we're only human, okay? We're only human. It's a real like absolute mic drop of a final line to this film, and he wraps her up in his coat, and it's really
Yeah.
lovely, and it ends. That is the film. Now, obviously, we have spoken about how there's Bridget Jones' The Edge of Reason, which I think from memory literally takes off exactly after this scene. It's very short, isn't
Yeah,
it?
pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah. And then Bridget Jones's Baby, which is a few years after that. That came out in 2016, so yeah, quite a few years after. And then there have been 4 books in total. So there's Bridget Jones's Diary, Bridget Jones' The Edge of Reason. There's Bridget Jones' The Something Something, like Mad About the Boy or something.
Oh, I don't know that one.
And then there's The Baby Diaries, which is
Right.
what. So there's like a middle one that never got made into a film. So that's Bridget Jones. Did we miss anything?
No. The only thing I will say about the sequels is I know that they changed Edge of Reason, where Mark has an affair with, I think it's Rebecca.
Oh, the intern type character.
Yeah. So in
Mm.
the book, he actually has an affair with her in that.
Does he?
Yeah, but they cut it for
Because
the
they
film.
make her a lesbian in the film.
Yes,
Because I
they do.
remember that really vividly.
I think I don't know if that's maybe because people wouldn't it wouldn't be as well received with Bridget having been through a lot before to get to this stage and have that happen to her, and especially seeing as Mark is supposedly so into her. I just don't think it'd have
No,
flown. So
I would
yeah,
have been really upset if that
yeah,
happened. Okay, yeah, no, I'm glad they didn't do that. I
yeah.
think as well, I might be wrong. I might have to like correct myself and like edit, but I think Helen Fielding killed off Mark Darcy in the books.
Did she?
I think he's dead in like
I
the third or fourth book.
I don't remember that.
I'm gonna Google it
Well,
right now.
I haven't read the third or fourth, so that's
I just remember it being like a real thing and people being like,
oh
holy shit. Right, let me get this up. Bridget Jones, Mark Darcy. Yes, here we go. In Bridget Jones' Mad About the Boy, Bridget reveals that Mark, her husband and father for 2 children, died 5 years earlier.
oh
I
no
don't know how. That's just an excerpt I just read quickly.
oh
Yeah. So I mean, I guess in Bridget Jones's Baby,
mm,
they were having issues. So maybe they
yeah.
kind of like instead of killing the character off, they just gave them these issues. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So nothing else you wanted to add if we
No,
wrap up?
just despite all its dated tropes, it's still a fantastic film, and Bridget as a character is still amazing, and
Yeah.
I younger me will forever look up to her.
Yeah. I think like we're looking at it with, it's 22 years later. So we have, the benefits of hindsight. We've evolved as people that we're not the strict parameters of what is considered fat have loosened.
Yeah,
So yeah, I appreciate it's very much a time capsule of 2001. I'm like, what year are we in? I can't remember. And I just think like, yeah, anyone watching it now hopefully has the context to be like, oh, this isn't fat, and I shouldn't judge myself based off this character being fat. Like that,
Yeah.
there's just it's impossible standard to meet. And it is just super fun. And it's really funny. Like it really is still funny. Yeah, okay, there's some racism in there. Just so actually, yes, content warning for that because apparently we couldn't just have a rom-com when there wasn't some racism in there.
I know.
So, Faye, on Facts on Film, we like to rate our films based on how well we believe they represent fat bodies. And we rate them out of ourselves. So, out of 5 potential Fays, what would you give Bridget Jones's Diary?
In terms of
Fat
fat
representation. Yes.
1.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not a fair representation of larger people.
I just thought the only other larger person I could think of in the film is Mr. Fitzherbert, who is a creepy pervert.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not good representation for fat bodies
No,
either.
no.
So no, I mean, and I don't even want to give it any rating. I think it's a 0 for me. I think it's a 0 Hannah, which has not happened on this podcast before.
The only reason I give it 1 is just because it tries to, well, it thinks it's got that representation, but no, you're right. It doesn't. No, I've changed my mind. No face.
Oh my
No
God.
face.
This
No
is
face.
this is a new low, a record low of 2 0 out of ourselves scores. I don't know how to word that. I mean, yeah, it's just and the thing is, like, I love it. I would still recommend it to anyone who wants to watch it, especially if you're a rom-com person. But it is problematic. And I just think I need to add the second one. I don't think I'm gonna add the third one just because I don't remember liking the third one all that much.
She literally says at the beginning that she's at her ideal weight, and it's pretty much never mentioned again. So they don't even touch upon it really in the third.
Yeah, there's
I
no
know.
need to.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think I'll add the second one just because, like we mentioned earlier, Renee Zellweger did gain the weight for the second one. So yeah, I'll add it onto the list just see how she is treated. But yeah, I just think the way that the film treats her treatment by the men, her work colleagues, it's just gross. Just because she isn't thin, using air quotes, thin, and I just think, it's just shit. And I guess as well, like it affects her confidence. You mentioned that earlier, like she isn't as confident as she could be because she thinks she's less than because her body doesn't fit. And I just think it's just not good.
No.
And not good.
No.
Anyway, thank you so much, Faye, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Where can it has been fun. We have like dissected Bridget Jones' Diary.
Yeah.
Yay. So where can the listeners find more of your stuff?
I'm on Twitter at Tweak81 and also on Twitter with at Spitgrades. I'm terrible at doing this because my husband is usually the one who reels off all the socials at the end.
Yeah.
I'm not the one for it. But find me on Twitter and you'll find everything there, basically.
And all the links will be in the show notes as well. Yeah. So it'll all be there down below. Well, and the lovely listeners can find the podcast at Fats on Film on Twitter and Instagram, and myself at Queen Bee Says on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Thank you so much for listening and stay fat.